Okay, some of the meetings, events, engagements that have happened since my last update, I'll just run quickly through them. I was a participant in the opening ceremonies of the Ontario Parasport Winter Games in Brantford, and on February 10th I brought greetings along with Premier Kathleen Wynne. On February 15th I took part in the Chiefs Committee on Wealth Creation in Toronto, which I am the chair of, and this is a committee to try and create more wealth for our community. On February 16th, I was joined by Janice Montour and Paula Whitlow from the Woodland Cultural Center and Constance Jameson from Six Nations Tourism to meet with Eleanor. I had a meeting with Eleanor McMahon, who is the Minister of Tourism, Sport and Culture. We did have presentations on fentanyl here in our community, which were provided by New Directions. They were community presentations, which I understand were very well attended. They were held on February 15th and 17th. On the 22nd and 23rd of February, I attended a Chiefs committee on who's dealing with the Hydro One sales, and we are working on brief information, a one-pager outline that we can get to community members, because we are going to have to make a decision as to whether we want to be a part of this these sales once it gets going. So we're going to be reaching out to the community on that. On the 22nd, I also attended a reception at the Lieutenant Governor's Suite at Queen's Park, which was with the launch of a small book of 150 stories by a number of different people. Happy to say that one of the authors was Janice Montour. On February 23rd, Councillors Carl Hill, along with Lonnie Bomberry and Phil Montour, and myself, made a presentation to the Standing Committee, who were holding hearings on the Aggregate Act. And we informed them that none of the aggregates should be taken without Six Nations consultation with Six Nations and our consent. I also had a meeting with the Minister of Natural Resources, Catherine McGarry, Councillors Charlie Wayne Martin, Carl Hill, and Lonnie Bomberry, Phil Montour, and Paul General and I attended, where we again talked to her about the Aggregate Act, and we also talked about hunting and fishing. On February 24th, at the invitation of GREAT, I attended a breakfast in Brantford with MP Phil McColman and MPP Dave Levac. And on the 25th, the residential school survivors who are working on a memorial park at the Woodland Cultural Center, or the former Mohawk Institute grounds, hosted a dinner with a number of survivors who came in, especially some came in from Toronto. On the 25th, I also attended the opening of the new exhibit at Woodland Cultural Center called Unreserved. I encourage everyone to go and take a look at that. And on the 26th, I attended another session at the Cultural Center, which was Ancestors in Archives, where they were showing a number of pictures that they had received from the old residential school and some of the kids that were in there. The last week of February, beginning of March, was a very busy week for Council. The Good Roads Convention was held in Toronto from February 27th to March 2nd. Councillors Carl Hill, Terry General, Charlie Wayne Martin, and Mike Montour attended that. There was also a Chiefs of Ontario Health Forum held in Toronto from February 28th to March 2nd, which I attended, along with Councillors Sherry Lynn Hill-Pierce, Hazel Johnson, and Melba Thomas. Laurie Davis-Hill and Crystal Burning from Health Services also attended that. And on March 1st, 2nd, there was yet another conference on overlapping claims, which was held in Niagara Falls and was organized by our Lands and Resources Department. And Councillors Bob Johnson, Ray Miracle, and Dave Hill attended that. Now, during the Good Roads Convention, we always try and get at least brief meetings with a number of cabinet ministers, and I want to thank Mike Montour, who happened to arrange all those meetings. We had meetings with the Minister of Transportation, talking about roads and bridges and maybe lights on Highway 6. We had a meeting with the Deputy Premier, who's also the Minister of Advanced Education, and we talked to her about getting Six Nations Polytech accredited as a university. We met with the Parliamentary Secretary for Community Safety, where we talked about the Youth Lodge, youth justice, and a bit about policing. And we met with Minister Zimmer, who's the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, on a number of issues. And we also talked to Tracy McCharles, who's the Minister of Accessibility, just to inform her of our audits and to alert to her that we would be looking for her support to secure some dollars in the future. We met also with the Minister of Infrastructure and the Minister of Child and Youth Strategy. So there were a number of issues that went on, and they were all very good meetings. On March 1st, Ray Miracle also took part in a site visit in Niagara Falls, along with the City of Niagara Falls, who are bidding to be the host for the Canada Summer Games coming up in 2020. On March 3rd, I attended a farewell party at Woodland Cultural Center for Janice Montour, who is, after 14 years, is leaving as the executive director of the Cultural Center. But the good news is she's becoming Six Nations Director of Tourism. On March 4th, I participated in a walk with the Seroptimus group in Galt, and it was a lead-in to International Women's Day, and I was asked to be the keynote speaker at that. Later that evening, I attended the coffee house at the Woodland Cultural Center. And on March 5th to 8th, I attended the National Indigenous Women's Summit, which was held in Toronto. And Norma General Lickers also attended as the elder and did the opening prayers. And I was asked to provide some welcoming remarks and greetings on the morning of the first day. Later that same day, I also had a meeting with Minister Chris Ballard, who is the minister responsible for poverty reduction in housing. And Councillor Carl Hill and Sandy Porter from Ontario Works and I attended that meeting. And we wanted to talk to him about the thrift store project and about the possibility of emergency housing in the way of tiny houses. We also talked to him about some of the social assistance reform and the basic income assistance review. On March 8th, I did travel to, or March 7th, sorry, I did travel to the University of Guelph along with Phil Montour and Barry Hill. I had a speaking engagement there where I talked about Six Nations, our community, some of the issues we're dealing with, and Phil talked about our land rights and showed the PowerPoint presentation related to our global solution. And on March 10th, I traveled to Toronto, or to Sault Ste. Marie, to take part in an energy table with the provincial government, and Councillor Ray Miracle and Phil Montour also attended that. On March 9th, I was also in Toronto for a brief meeting with the Ministry of Community Safety with respect to policing, and our statement there was we would not come under the Police Services Act, but that we wanted to sit down and start renegotiating our police agreement, which is a tripartite agreement with the federal and provincial government. So that was it for the last month.